Hello, today's question is, can you survive solely on level 1 EV charging when you buy your new electric vehicle? Or do you need to go to level 2 charging as well in your home or workplace? So let's talk about that question. Hi, my name is Mike. I'm from Greenway Electric, and I've been driving electric vehicles since 2013. And a question that comes up from time to time is, can I just use level 1 charging? And let's just define what that is so we're all on the same page. So level 1 charging is basically 120 volt charging, and level 2 charging in the North American context would be 240 volt or 208 volt charging at various different amperages. And so the question generally comes up because a person might want to basically save money when they purchase their electric vehicle. Some people assume that you have to spend thousands of dollars to get an electrician to install a special charger in your house. And if you do need a high-speed charger, it could cost you some amount of money to do that, depending on how much electrical work is required. And so the question comes up from folks just trying to save a little bit of money and not have to spend all that money on a level 2 charger. So then the question is, can I just plug it into my regular wall outlet? Because that's what we have in our house. Basically, level 1 charging is just using your regular wall outlet in your parking area or your garage. And then the question is, can I just use that? And therefore, I don't need to hire an electrician to install any special wiring. I don't need to spend money on buying a special charging or EVSE for my electric vehicle. And will that be sufficient and enough for the vehicle that I'm driving? So let's consider the different options. The answer to the question really comes down to how far it is you're driving every day or every week using your electric vehicle, and then how long you have available to charge every day when you get home. So if you are like me and you travel quite a far distance every day and you get home in a reasonable time and you're there 10 to 12 hours every day to recharge your vehicle, you're going to need to decide whether or not the amount of charging time and amperage and volts that you have available is enough to recharge your car every night. Typically, I like to start with a fully charged car every morning, or 80%, whatever I've got it set at, and I'd like to make sure that I have enough charge for the day. So the amount of time it takes to recharge my car is highly dependent on the number of miles or kilometers I'm traveling every day. If we just do a little bit of quick math here, the average electric vehicle is going to be able to travel around 3 miles or 5 kilometers on 1 kilowatt hour of electricity. And so a kilowatt hour is not a really familiar measure to us. We're used to gallons and liters. But basically, if you're charging your car at 12 amps at 120 volts, you have 1440 watts of power, which is about 1.4 kilowatt hours of power per hour. But there are some charging losses. So just to make numbers nice and round and easy to calculate, let's say you can recharge your car at 1 kilowatt hour per hour. So basically 1,000 watts per hour. So that means if you plug it in and you leave it plugged in for 10 hours, then you're recharging your car 10 kilowatt hours. Okay, so if we go back to what I said before with how far you can travel on each of those kilowatt hours. So if you have the ability to recharge for 10 hours, which means 10 kilowatt hours overnight, and then we convert that to how many miles or kilometers you drive per day. Recall that I said 1 kilowatt hour will get you around 3 miles or 5 kilometers per charge. So therefore, if you're traveling more than 30 miles per day or more than 50 kilometers per day, you're not going to be able to recharge your car if you only have that 10 hours every night in which to recharge your vehicle. So in my household, we have 2 different electric vehicles. Mine is the one that goes the further distance, and I do use the level 2 charging in my parking space because it does take me quite a few hours to recharge my vehicle. On the other side of the garage, or where my wife parks, she does drive a lot less than I do. So we just have a level 1 120 volt charger available for her, and hers gets recharged because she's simply not driving as far every day. So I kind of use that as a rough number for calculating whether or not you need level 1 or level 2 charging in your household. Assuming you've got that 10 hours per night to recharge, if you're traveling more than 50 kilometers or 30 miles per day, then you would likely want to consider level 2 charging in your household. Now, if you don't use your vehicle every day, or you have some other driving scenario where that's different, or you're at home for 12 to 14 hours per day, of course that allows you to recharge quicker, and not quicker but further, because you're plugged in for longer. So if you're not going to work every day or using the vehicle every day, you may well be able to get away with level 1 charging quite handily. The other thing to consider is for some jurisdictions, some areas, your electricity costs go down during low usage times. For example, at midnight, your electricity may be cheaper, and so you might want to delay your recharging of your car until after midnight, in which case you may well need to have the higher speed charging once you wait until after midnight. Let's say it's between midnight and 5 a.m. when the electricity is the cheapest. Then you'll want to recharge your car within those 6 hours. So if we take 6 hours and we multiply by 3 miles per hour, so we've got 18 miles that you could recharge on level 1 during that period of time. So if you're traveling more than 18 miles or around 30 kilometers per day, then you probably want to get level 2 so you can fully recharge during that low electricity cost time. If you're in an area where the electricity costs the same at all hours, then I'd simply just say plug it in when you get home and it'll be ready for you in the morning. If you really want to be grid sensitive and kind to the grid, you might wait till 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. and not have your car start recharging. But then again, that's going to reduce the number of hours you can recharge and may affect your decision on whether or not you can use level 1 or level 2 charging in your house. So again, the question comes up basically for money saving opportunity. Can you just use your existing wiring in your house and charge your car with your regular 120 volt plug? I guess another consideration or topic I just attached to that is you want to make sure that the charging equipment, your your EVSE, is not pulling too many amps out of your wall socket. So most of the EVSE that come with stock with the vehicle will, if they have a 120 volt setting, they'll pull 12 amps, and you're really only supposed to pull 80% of the maximum amperage out of your wall socket on a consistent basis. So for example, a normal wall socket has a 15 amp breaker on it, and 80% of that will be 12 amps. So you wouldn't really want to pull more than 12 amps on a consistent basis. There are some third-party EVSEs or chargers that can pull more than 12 amps. They'll pull 16 amps, and they'll advertise that they're faster and they're 30% faster than your stock EVSE, which is correct. But they're also going to be putting a lot of strain and stress on the wiring of your house, and it's not really designed to do that, and there's a risk of fire. So you want to make sure to not exceed 80% of the breaker and the wiring of your circuits that you're using. That's assuming that the circuit you're using is not shared with something else. If you're sharing it with some other lights or a plug or other appliance in your house, you want to pull even less than that, or try to move that other load to a different circuit. So the same thing is with 240 volt plugs. If you install, say, a 30 amp breaker on your 240 volt plug, you wouldn't want your EVSE to also pull 30 amps. That's going to be too much over the long course of time. You can pull 30 amps momentarily, and that's why it's rated at 30 amps. But if you're charging your car for hours at a time, you want to make sure to use the 80% rule and not charge at more than 24 amps if you're using a 30 amp circuit. So you'll need to take a look at the EVSE or the charging equipment you received with your car to see what amperage it's pulling, depending on where you have it plugged in and to what voltage it's plugged into. If you're not sure, I'm sure you can check with your local electrician and make sure that what you're doing, the load you're putting on your circuit, is not causing any strain, stress, or heat. Essentially, when I say strain and stress, that translates into heat with the electrical circuits, and that's what you want to try and avoid. So if you ever do find that when you're unplugging your EVSE, your charger from your car or from your wall, and it's very hot, the plug is hot, that means there's a problem and you should solve it. Either the connection is not good, or you're drawing too many amps for that plug, or some other thing is going on. But heat is a warning signal for you, and you want to try to avoid that. In our local electric vehicle club, I would guess about half of our members probably are charging on 120 volts or level 1, simply because they don't do long distance, or their particular schedule doesn't require them to drive their vehicle every day, so they have extra time in order to recharge it. And I'd be curious for the folks watching this video, do you use a level 1 120, or are you using a level 2 240? And just curious what the percentage or ratio is of people using those different opportunities. If you found this video helpful or informative, I appreciate it if you can give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing for future electric vehicle videos. Thanks for watching and have a great day.